Hello, Podfam, and hello, Rachel. How are you this evening?
I am doing all right today, Laura. It's kind of felt like a really fast week, but it also feels like this week has been like 4 weeks. And I don't know how to explain how that makes sense, but it makes sense in my heart, you know? It's
Um,
like going fast, but it's going so slow.
yeah, I'm going with the week was super slow because I had to go into the
Mm.
office um
Mhm.
a lot this week instead of my like normal 2 days. So for me, it's been Thursday for like 3 days and it's finally
Fair
Thursday.
enough.
So, the end of the week is here, which I'm very excited about.
Tomorrow, half day Fridays. Woo!
Yay! Ending soon,
Woo!
sadly.
Ending soon,
Yeah.
but man, this is not what we're talking about today, but I feel like I need to express myself. We've got some exciting guests coming up soon, guys. Everybody get excited.
Oh my gosh. Everyone, you are going to be so excited with what we have coming up. It's all part of our abortion series in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and we have
Mm-hmm.
some very like official people.
I know.
Look at
I'm
us. Look at
so
us on our little podcast.
we're moving up in the world. I feel so warm in my heart that they are willing to speak with us and share their knowledge because we are here to do our part to help spread the word.
Exactly. So definitely subscribe to our podcast to make sure you don't miss any of those episodes. They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
coming out periodically over the next few months, and we will keep you up to date on what is coming up. Rachel, anything else going on with you today? How's your day going?
I didn't really do a lot today, honestly. I went I was kind of went out of town for not out of town. I went to another office to work yesterday that was like a couple hour drive, and we left the office at 4:30. Do you want to know when I got home?
What time?
10 p.m.
Oh God.
So, needless to say, I felt like I worked 3 days yesterday. So I just was feeling a little bit sleepy and not very productive today. But I did apply for a really great travel credit card, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself today.
Awesome. You're getting on that credit card churning journey now.
Yes.
Get those travel points,
Yep.
girl.
I want those travel points. Like I've been collecting like one type for a while, and then I looked at it today. I'm like, you know what? I could get better points elsewhere. I think they'll still be useful at some point, but just not useful enough.
No, not enough to like get yourself a plane ticket, and that's kind of what you're going for.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, why are you taking 2,000 of my points, but then still charging me $800?
True.
I'm like, I might as well just go buy a plane ticket and make more points.
Yep. That makes
Yep,
sense to me.
yep.
Yeah. Well,
So
I've had a pretty good day today. It's been a productive week. I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I got a lot done,
good,
staying on top of
good,
things.
good.
However, I think I'm watching too much of the OC.
Oh,
Yeah.
why?
Um, because I had to go into the office. It was on Monday, and I was actually the only person there because I had to go meet someone to let them in. And I'm looking at my outfit. I'm like, this is a nice outfit. I like it. It's like a little black tank top and then these like
Mm-hmm.
kind of off gray capri pants. And I'm like, this
Mm-hmm.
is cute, like
Yep.
casual yet still kind of classy.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my hair in a ponytail as well.
Mm.
And I just happened to catch my reflection in the
Yep.
mirror. And I'm like, why is this outfit so familiar? Like I feel like I've seen this somewhere, but like I just got these clothes.
Uh-huh.
And then I was watching the OC later that night, and Kirsten Cohen,
Mm.
Seth Cohen's mother, was wearing the
Yep.
exact same outfit as me.
Love that for you. You're really channeling the
Yeah,
OC,
so that was
channeling the early 2000s style.
yeah, that was outfit number 1. And then yesterday when I went to the office, I kinda, like, straightened my hair, but kept, like, a little curl in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Had a cute little, it's not really a plaid skirt, but it's, like, that checked
Mm-hmm.
skirt and then, like, a collared tank top
Mm-hmm.
with little white heels. Also, again, caught my reflection. I'm like, I think Barissa wore this last night when I was watching TV. So somehow naturally, and like I kind of lay in bed and I piece my outfit together of what I think I want to wear. So I feel like watching the OC so close to bedtime, I just seem to naturally be creating outfits that they are wearing on the show.
Well, you know what? You're finding the good 2000 styles, you know?
Yeah, at least I'm using the good ones. I have not worn anything low rise yet. Everything has been
Please
a
don't.
respectable height and nothing else too crazy. So, I feel like I'm picking the good things.
If you ever wear low-rise stuff, I'm taking the OC away from you.
Okay, please do. That's when I
Yeah.
need to stop, okay?
Yeah. That's completely unacceptable. So, what are you having to drink this fine evening?
So I'm going for a nice light herbal tea this evening, and
Nice.
it is my Nettle Greek Mountain tea.
Oh,
Um,
that's been a
it's
while
been a
since
while
you've had
since I've
that one.
had this one, and it is really just so soothing. It kind of has like a bit of a lemon balm taste to it,
Mhm. Mhm.
and yeah, it's just very relaxing for later in the evening. What are you having though?
Lovely. I have another herbal tea, one of my, new ones, my new Tetley tea, and it's cinnamon spice.
Wow, you're on a roll right now with these new
I
teas.
am. I am, except I only bought 4 new ones, so I only got 2 more episodes to go and then the rotation starts again.
Nah, that's okay. That's
Except one of those teas is peppermint, so
Of
I
course it
really only
is.
have
Of course
3.
it's peppermint, but you know what? I'm a
Yeah,
firm believer peppermint needs to always be in the pantry.
exactly, exactly. I ran out of peppermint tea, I needed to buy new stuff.
Exactly. So that's fine.
So, yeah, and I bought 3 others to go with it, so, you know, I was doing okay. I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, you're doing just fine. Anyway, let's get into today's episode. And, we are so excited that we got a little taste of traveling this year.
Mhm,
Things are starting to
mhm.
open back up. So we got to do little trips, still within Canada, but we're getting ready to hopefully venture out and go
Hopefully.
international. We'll see.
Mhm,
And we just kind of wanted to revisit because we haven't done a travel episode in a long time and talk about just some safety tips,
mhm,
especially if you are a woman who wants to do a solo trip
mhm.
or like, two women, group of women, men, it doesn't matter who. Um, it's just something that is very important when you're traveling. You want to try and be safe.
Yep.
So we thought it'd be fun just to kind of highlight some quick tips today and kind of get people's confidence up for taking on a solo trip.
Yeah. Honestly, solo trips are fun. I feel like they can come across quite intimidating at first, but it's a nice experience to really challenge yourself and put yourself in situations you otherwise wouldn't. And not into like dangerous situations, but like having to go sit in a restaurant by yourself, or having to go on a tour or to a show by yourself, or having to go ask for directions. Because let me tell you, I don't like asking for directions when somebody else can go ask for directions.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel like a lot of people, they always think of the classic like backpacking across Europe by yourself.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but there's so much that you could really put under this umbrella of solo travel. It
Yeah,
really
for
doesn't
sure.
matter like how far away from home you're going. You could literally be just going to the next town over.
Mhm.
Because everyone has their own comfort levels of what
Mhm.
they define as a solo trip or
Mhm.
just a trip in general. So we don't want to like limit this episode to those like big international trips where you might be going like by yourself for like months on end.
Exactly. All right, shall we get into our tips?
Yes, let's do it. Now, we tried to organize these in like a little bit of a category.
Mhm.
We'll see how successful we are with that. So,
Yes.
the first one is just kind of being smart in general
Mhm.
and thinking about your own safety. And I think when it comes to traveling by yourself, your intuition is actually heightened. And some people have argued that you're almost more safe traveling by yourself because you're going to be more aware of what is going on
Mhm.
around you
Mhm.
versus if you were traveling with someone or in a big group, you kind of have that automatic, like, oh, safety in numbers. So, like, we're going to be fine, or you're chatting a
Yep.
lot, so you get distracted. So, that was one thing I thought was kind of interesting is just listening to your intuition. And I think on any type of traveling, you should always trust your gut because
Mhm.
it's going to tell you if you are in an unsafe situation or if something
Mhm.
strange is going on around you.
Mhm. And this one definitely applies to when it's nighttime. Don't freak yourself out, but do be cautious at night because that's usually when some sketchy things happen if they're going to happen, you know?
Yeah, like at the end of all these tips, it's really just being smart,
Mhm.
right? One big thing is don't be flashy. And
Yeah.
by that, I mean, like sometimes with your clothing, your cash, your phone, any valuables, you kind of want to
Mhm.
keep that concealed. And
Mhm.
one thing I like to really do is research where I'm going and kind of see,
Yep.
like, is there a local custom of clothing,
Mhm.
right? Like, I don't want to go to a place like Southeast Asia
Mhm.
where itty bitty little crop top and booty shorts
Yeah.
where everyone else is wearing more like covered shoulder, covered legs, right? Like one
Mhm.
thing, it's out of respect for that
Mhm.
culture. And if you're
Mhm.
traveling, I truly believe that you should always try and learn about the culture and respect their customs.
Mhm.
And it automatically makes you stand out. And
Mhm.
everyone, it's like kind of like a target on your head of just like, oh, that person doesn't belong here. They must be a
Yeah.
tourist.
Yeah, and I think a couple good things to research too alongside that is the general safety rating of the place. Because I know on, at least in Canada, on the government website, if you look up traveling to, just for traveling to Greece, for example, it actually has a safety rating of like if you need to be cautious or not. I think with Greece, it was just like, you're fine. There might like be some pickpockets and stuff, etc. But use that resource before you go. And a few other things to be aware of is, is there anything going on in the society that you're going to visit? Is there anything political you need to be aware of? Any political unrest? And I also thought this was really interesting because I haven't really thought about this, but being aware of if there's any dangerous weather patterns that
Mm.
occur at the time of year that you want to go. Because, like, when we were traveling together, like, we talked more about, like, how hot is it? Like, is it humid? Is it dry heat? Like, what kind of clothes do we need to wear for that climate? But I've never thought, like, to be like, oh, is there any common thing, like common weather pattern that occurs during this time of year that I want to go that I probably don't want to be there for.
Yeah, like if you're going to a place, you're like, is it hurricane season?
Yeah,
Right? Like maybe you're getting a
that's good
better
to know.
deal on accommodations and flights and everything, but
Mhm.
a hurricane could also roll through and, as we've seen throughout
Yeah.
history, like these can be major national disasters.
Mhm.
So, we're not trying to scare anyone and say like, no, don't ever go to these places during those times, but it's just something to consider and you just kind of weigh the checks and balances
Mhm.
of it and say like, oh, okay, like am I okay if this situation arises?
Yeah, is that a risk that I'm willing to take, especially if you're traveling by yourself? And just kind of staying in the before you go space. Another good thing to do is to bring a copy or copies of your passport and other travel documents that you keep separate from your regular passport, like your physical one. And a good thing too, if you can do it, is to get a guaranteed copy. So I know I've had one in the past that was like signed by a CPA, and that, from my understanding, can act as your physical passport if you lose your actual one, which I just find it's good to have that.
Yeah, it's very important. And I kind of want to just cross over a little bit into accommodation. We're not going fully there yet. But
Mhm.
when it comes to keeping your travel documents safe,
Mhm.
if if your hotel room or hostel has a safe that
Mhm.
you trust, like it's good to keep those documents locked up. It's
Yep.
also good, I always keep them hidden in the room or
Mhm.
depending on the place, like I actually will keep my passport on me at all
Yep.
times, but in like a concealed place, like not just in a bag where if someone grabbed that bag, I'd be without my passport.
Yeah, I can't remember where we put ours when we were traveling, but
Yeah, I
they were
had
always
mine
in a
in like a
secure spot.
little concealed belt or I guess something like that,
Yeah.
where it just kind of laid flat there, and but it wasn't like with my money. It wasn't like all
Yeah.
my possessions in one area, just in case. You never know. It's very common where people will go by you on like a motorbike and just grab your bag. And this
Mhm.
happens anywhere. Like, I'm not this can happen to you at home, you know?
Just
We're
be
not trying to
cautious
scare
everywhere, guys.
people, but, like, you kinda have to be smart anywhere, It's
Mhm.
just the times that we are in. Um,
Mhm.
Another important thing is before you leave, give someone you trust your itinerary
Yes.
and, periodically check in with them. I know a lot of people like to kinda go "dark," quote, unquote,
Mhm.
while they're
Mhm.
traveling just to, like, really disconnect. But I know for sure whenever I'm traveling, I let my parents know, "Hey, I'm getting on the plane. Hey, I've landed. I'm at my hotel. I'm here. I'm in this city right now." Um, just so they know, like, someone knows that you're okay, right?
Yeah.
And, they can look at your calendar and be like, "Hey, haven't heard from them in a few days. Where are they today? Oh, they're in this city. Okay."
Mhm.
It's just, good practice. We don't have to all be little lone rangers out there where
No.
no one knows where we are.
Yeah. Honestly, your parents like to know
Yeah,
where you are.
they do.
They love the itinerary thing, like, come on.
And, like, if you don't
So
wanna use your parents, have a friend. But, like,
Mhm.
I also wanna say, like, make sure it's a trusted friend because I know a lot of
Yes.
people will post on social media like, "Hey, I'm on this trip," kinda thing, and then their houses get robbed.
Oh,
That's why
yeah.
some people will wait until they get back from a trip before they post any pictures. So, this is just general awareness, friends.
Yeah, well, that's a great point that you just made is not posting on social media until you've left an area. And this doesn't just have to be like you don't post anything till you get back from your trip. This is, if you're traveling for a long extended period of time, especially if it's on Instagram and you have a open Instagram account, if you are staying at a really nice Airbnb or hotel or hostel and you got some nice pictures when you're there, don't post those pictures with the location until you've moved on somewhere else because that's just a signifier of where you are.
So, what you're saying is, it's not a good idea to go on, like, Instagram Live while you're at,
Yeah,
whatever big festival.
exactly. Exactly. And like, that's another thing like don't want to scare people, but especially if you have like an open Instagram account and such that anybody can watch your story, like, you don't go home and say I live at such and such number on such and such street, right? So when you go away, you don't have to do that either.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes.
So to finish off the be smart category here, I think it's really great if you have the opportunity to do like a trial run that
Mhm.
is close to home because I
Mhm.
feel like society has really like glamorized this thing of like, oh, you need to go solo travel, you need to go find yourself.
Mhm.
Um, that's not for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like to some people, that might be the worst idea, but they feel like, no, no, I should go do this. I should feel like I can go by myself to a far off land, do a trial
Mhm.
run first and see if you
Yeah.
even like it. I think it's great if we talk about this all the time on the podcast. It's great if you can separate yourself, from your close people and like do things for yourself.
Mhm.
But something such as going on a trip by yourself, that just might not be for you. And that's
Yeah.
okay. So don't feel like you
Mhm.
have to, and definitely test the waters before you book your 6-month solo trip to like Thailand.
Yeah, and if you do like want to do something a bit further from home and it maybe is your first solo trip, start with something familiar. So, for instance, I the first solo trip I did was to England. And I had been to England lots of times. I felt very comfortable with navigating it. It was an English speaking country, so I knew that I could communicate with anyone and I wouldn't have that barrier
Mhm.
that would probably cause some stress if I was traveling alone to a country where there was a language barrier, because then that's just a bit of an added stress if I am not fully tuned up on that language. And it just eases you in to the process. Like you don't have to go like say you do something a bit closer to the home and then you're like, okay, I'm ready for this. You don't have to go to like, 24-hour flight away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. somewhere familiar is always good when you start this off.
Exactly. So, speaking of flights, let's move
Mhm.
into transit. Uh,
Yes.
so I feel like this is kind of one of the biggest things people worry about is when you're at your destination, how are you getting around? How are you safely getting to different
Mhm.
places? And I think the best thing is, even starting with your flights, is try to arrive somewhere in the daylight so you can
Mhm.
avoid transit at night, especially when you're landing in a new country. It's dark out, you don't have your bearings at all, and you're getting in a cab and just hoping they take you to the right place. If you can, see if you can get there in the daylight, and then you kind of get accustomed to, like, okay, this is
Yep.
how things are working. There's lots of people around. That's just like a basic safety tip. The other one is, just to go off of that, is when you're in cabs and cars, if you can, like if you're kind of just traveling with just a carry-on or a small bag, keep it with you in the back seat. Only if you have like large stuff, don't put it in the trunk. That way, if
Mhm.
you need to like exit the vehicle really quickly, you have
Mhm.
your stuff, right? But like
Mhm.
none of your stuff is ever worth your life. So, if you have to leave something behind, leave it behind and get yourself out of a
Yeah.
scary situation. I personally also like to map out the route first so I know how long it's going to take and I know the
Yep.
general route that the driver will be taking. And I
Mhm.
actually have a reason for this. So, many years ago, when my family was traveling in Europe, my dad was very aware of a restaurant that we were going to, and
Mhm.
he knew the route and everything. But the cab driver took us on this big, long roundabout route just to kind of get the cab rate up.
Yeah.
And eventually my dad, like, he's like, no, no, like I know the way. He's trying to give the guy directions. And he's like, no, no,
Yeah.
it's a shortcut. It's a shortcut. It's fine. And my dad eventually got the guy to pull over, and
Mhm.
he went to a police officer and said, like, hey, I'm trying to get to this place, but this guy is like driving us all over the place. And like, let's say
Yeah.
that restaurant pretty damn fast after that.
Oh, geez.
So just one thing, like it's something you don't always think about because you just think like, oh, well, the cab's gonna take me, but you never know,
Mhm.
right? Like that's
Yeah.
just to see like, hey, this has been 20 minutes and it was supposed to take 15.
Yeah. Another good thing too on the cabs to and from the airport, and this was something that we definitely practiced when we were traveling together, is to make sure that if you're taking a taxi from the airport, go to the taxi stand and hail one that way. Because depending on the place that you're at, there might be kind of like, I wouldn't say unmarked cabs,
Mhm.
but they're not the airport cabs. It's definitely safer to go with the airport cabs.
For sure. Yeah. Whenever I'm like leaving an airport, I always see signs like, hey, make sure you get a taxi at this stand because like we can't guarantee that any, like some of them could be unmarked and, again, dangerous situation.
Yeah.
One thing I've kind of seen, like I know when I've been traveling lately, I actually take Uber a lot more than a
Yep.
cab. And in some countries, Uber is actually possibly safer.
Mhm.
And the reason is it's because of the app itself.
Mhm.
It's tracking you and the driver. So I feel like that's just a little bit of added security,
Mhm.
to have that like GPS involved, especially in some countries where, like, I don't know, I'm not going to say which, but the cab companies are literally corrupt and
Yeah.
possibly owned by local mafia. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but that is
Yeah.
just a reality in some places in the world. So,
Mhm.
Uber might be a safer option for you.
For sure. And I'm just going to make this sentiment, and I'm probably going to make it a couple times later in this episode, but don't be cheap if it's at the expense of your safety. So if it's late at night and you're thinking of walking home because you don't want to spend money on the taxi or transit or an Uber, just don't do that. If it's really late at night, please take transit
Yeah,
if you're alone.
exactly. And I do have a couple of walking tips for everyone. So if you do happen to be walking out at night, like let's say your hotel really isn't that far from like a restaurant that you
Mhm.
were at, is just like a block or two away. The best thing you can do as like a single woman is try to walk close to other groups or especially families and especially like other groups of women, because you are much less likely to be singled out if you are around other people. And that being said, like don't be walking down alleyways, don't be walking on the beach at night. Be smart,
Mhm.
right? Like you kind of need to not keep your head on a swivel, but be aware of how you might look out in a
Mhm.
big city being all by yourself at night. And you
Exactly.
just want to make sure like you don't stand out, right? Like
Mhm.
be like a local and just
Mhm.
blend in.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, in your own city, you probably wouldn't walk home alone at night if it was X amount of distance. Do the same here.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And actually, we were having this conversation with some coworkers yesterday that
Mhm.
the older I get, the more paranoid I am.
Honestly,
And
same.
I'm like, I don't know if I just know more now. I have no
Yeah.
idea what has brought this up. But even in like my own city, like I'm from a small town and I live in the city now, I don't walk to our grocery store at night because it's like
No.
I would have to go behind the building on kind of like a road and or alley.
Mhm.
So it's not just when you're traveling, it's when you're anywhere, right? Gotta be
Mhm.
safe, we love men,
Exactly.
but we gotta protect ourselves as women.
Yes, we do.
Next thing, also when you're walking, I know a lot of people like to put their headphones in, and even I will go out for a walk around the park with my headphones on, but I'm not like blasting a podcast, I'm not blasting music. I have it
Mhm.
on, but I can still hear what's going around me. And I'm also not like, buried with my face in my phone. I'm like up, I'm looking around, I'm standing tall, I'm walking confidently because that is key. You need to look like you know where you're going. You don't want to be like looking like, "Oh, I'm so lost," or like not really paying attention to what's going on around me. You got to be aware. And I think the best thing is like make eye contact with people. Like if you
Yep.
see someone looking at you, make eye contact. I even like remember like that person's wearing a blue shirt. And that just kind of
Yeah.
reminds my brain to be like, okay, take in what you are looking at. And I
Mhm.
actually tried this out. I was walking around the mall this evening and I would look at a few people, not in a creepy way. Okay. I kind of preference that. But like as we were walking by, I would kind of make eye contact them if they looked my direction. And a lot of
Mhm.
like, okay, like men would would drop my gaze. Like if I looked at them,
Really?
yeah, they would kind of like stop looking at me. So I don't know if it
Oh.
was just like me being like, "Hey, I'm acknowledging you over there." And they'd be like,
Mhm.
"No, no, never mind." Um, so that was just a weird experiment. Try it out for yourself. See what people around you do. Don't stare at
Mhm.
them though. That's creepy because then you're the weird one. And I know like the eye contact thing, I kind of heard a debate, not even a debate, just like I
Mhm.
saw this one comment about it because like that's what I've always done. I've like stand tall, I act confident, head up, make an eye contact. And then I saw this comment saying like, don't make eye contact with people. And I'm
Hmm.
like, that seems really weird because
Yeah.
that to me, like just in body language, that's very much like, oh, I'm coming in on myself. I'm not like holding my space and demanding
Yeah.
respect of my space.
Mhm.
So I thought that was bad advice. I don't know. People
Yeah, I
might
don't
have
like
a
that advice.
different like perspective on that, but I think you should be like making eye contact and like don't hold it so long that people are going to be like, is she hitting on me? No, just
Yeah, well,
being,
that's what I was
it's just
about
kind of like a person to person acknowledgement.
yeah, that's what I was about to say is, like, maybe that more means, like, if you're at a bar or something when you're traveling, like, by yourself or, like, at a restaurant or something, maybe they mean, like, don't maintain eye contact so somebody thinks you're interested in them.
Exactly.
I agree in that perspective, but not so much, like, the general walking around during the day thing.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and that what I feel like I really need to clarify the eye contact. It's not like you're holding it for several seconds. You're literally
Mhm.
just like you kind of make eye contact with them so they know that you're acknowledging them and then you
Yeah.
move on. Right? Like don't
Mhm.
be like watching them as you walk by. Like that's really fucking creepy. But yeah, I find in that situation it's just like if that person did have ill intent towards you, it's just like, "Ooh, they saw me," right?
Yeah.
Like they're taking in my appearance.
Mhm.
So I find that that's just one way that, you can keep your space.
For sure.
And I think at the end of the day, like, if a situation doesn't feel right as you're going around,
Mhm.
ask for help,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you're in a situation that doesn't feel right, just leave.
Mhm.
And Rachel, you and I were actually in a situation And this
Mhm.
was in a very touristy town in New Zealand, actually, and that was a country that we
Yeah.
felt very safe in, but we just happened to have
Mhm.
this one circumstance where we felt a little uncomfortable. We were walking, it was like kinda like a boardway, like outdoor
Yes.
street.
Yeah, like, it was kinda like a shopping like, kind of a touristy shopping street, like, we were really just walking back to our hostel,
Yeah,
and we were, like, a
so
few blocks away.
yeah, so we were kind of at the end of the street before we would turn the corner and go to our hostel, and we just kinda noticed as we made a couple turns, like, a group of guys were following us, like, keeping a distance,
Yeah.
but close enough, that we
Mhm.
could kinda hear them, and just all of a sudden, we both had this feeling come over us, we're like, "You know what? We shouldn't turn now onto the quiet street where there's no one around."
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so instead, we actually ducked into, I think it was like an ice cream parlor
Yeah.
for a few minutes, and, like, sure enough, like, that group of guys was kinda hanging around for a few minutes,
Yeah.
and then I think they got bored and left. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's important that if you do have a situation like that, duck into a store, duck into a restaurant, just to kinda get yourself surrounded by people, and, like, definitely don't turn down a street where there's no one.
Mhm. And ask for help from the workers there if you need it. Like,
Absolutely.
if you want somebody to, potentially they can call you an Uber or they can make sure that you get into the Uber. Or maybe if you're close enough, somebody will be willing to, like, help walk you home. Like, those kinds of things.
Yes, absolutely, like, I definitely have no shame. I've had, like, store clerks walk me to my car
Mhm.
before when it's late at night, just
Mhm.
because, like, I didn't feel safe,
Yeah.
and I, like, never feel guilty about it. Most people in who are working in these towns, like, they're familiar with tourists, and they're gonna wanna make sure, like, you get home safe.
Mhm.
Yeah, so never
Yeah.
be afraid to ask someone to get you back.
Yeah, and I think another example that I remember from this is that there was also a car in the same town that I remember was circling us a bit too.
Mhm.
And that's another thing to be aware of is, like, do you continuously see the same car
Yeah.
going past you a bunch of times, or is one traveling really slowly behind you? Definitely be aware of that and duck into a store.
Oh, for sure. I get so wary when cars slow down next to me. I feel
I
like
know,
I'm
I
getting a
don't
little
like it.
paranoid, and we're not trying to, like, put the fear in everyone in this episode. Like, it's just
Mhm.
this is just common sense being smart. Always pay attention, right? Especially
Mhm.
when you're trying to get from point A to point B.
For sure.
All right. Accommodation. What do you have,
All
Rachel?
right. So I'm going to take us back to we haven't even left on the trip yet, and we're doing some research, but definitely look into the hostels or the hotels or the Airbnbs that you are staying at and read the reviews, especially those written by women, if you can find them. Are there any mentions of, like, safety issues? Are there any issues with, like, the locks not working? Is it in a safe area? Do some research where you plot it on the map and see actually which area of the city, say you're in a city, that the hostel or hotel or whatever is in. Is it in a safe area? Because you can learn a lot about where you're going before you even book anything. And, like I said, don't be cheap. Sometimes I know that, like, the 3-star accommodation on, like, Hostel World is a bit cheaper than the 5-star one, but the 5-star one is 5 stars for a reason. So just be safe.
Yeah, your accommodation is definitely super important, and I personally think, this is just my opinion, I think hostels can be safer than hotels.
Especially if you're alone.
Yeah, especially if you're alone, and I think that goes for Airbnbs as well. And that's because, you can stay in a single room, which is totally fine, but a lot of them are like women-only dorms or even like a
Mhm.
co-ed dorm, there's people around, which is very important, and it's also a good opportunity for you to make friends, and
Mhm.
therefore, if you wanna go out and do some activities, like, maybe now you have a group of people to go with.
Yep. Mhm.
So I think that is super important. And, with a hotel, this was just another story that came up the other day that, if you're walking down the corridor by yourself,
Yeah.
you can easily be pulled into a room. And I'm
Mhm.
not trying, not trying to scare people. Um, but
Well,
this is just,
people can easily follow you to your room
yeah,
too.
exactly. So I don't know. I like to find places where there are lots of people around.
Mhm.
And yeah, then at least, someone will see something, or, there's lots of people around, so you're just a little bit safer. Um,
Exactly.
that being said, let's kind of go into your hotel room or Airbnb. It's important that you unfortunately have to check for cameras, especially as a woman.
Mhm.
Um, there are tons of videos on YouTube of how to find them, but some
Mhm.
common things to look at are like smoke alarms, alarm clocks, and an easy way to check is like turn the lights off, see if there's any like blinking lights or just like lights that are staying on. You can also shine the flashlight on your phone over any glass.
Mhm.
And because sometimes it's like a two-way and you would see like a bluish reflection behind
Mhm.
it. Um, and I think if you're finding cameras in the hotel room or the Airbnb, tell the front desk, tell the security, or get yourself the hell out of there.
Yeah, especially if it's an Airbnb.
Yes, if it's an
Just
Airbnb,
zoop,
get yourself
boop,
out of
get
there.
out.
If it's a
That's not
hotel,
good.
like go to security, maybe find a new hotel as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
then there is this other thing. I have not personally looked into it very much, but you can get like a little portable alarm door stop.
Mm.
So it would like prevent someone from opening the door, but it like once they do kind of get it a little bit open, alarm goes off
Mm.
to alert people. So, if you are worried or staying in an area that you're not feeling super comfortable, I think they're like $15 on Amazon or something. So that could definitely be a potential item that you should take with you.
It's a good idea. I've never thought of that.
Yeah, I haven't either, but
Yeah.
that came up in the hotel safety guide.
Nice.
All right, let's get.
Talking to
I was just
people.
like, let's get to the fun stuff, and I'm like, is
We're
any
both
of
introverts.
is any of this stuff fun? Um, so yeah, talking to people and going out because like this is kind of why you travel, right? Like in most
Mhm.
cases, you're out to get a new experience.
Mhm. I'm not very good at talking to people when I travel,
No, me neither.
honestly.
Me neither. I would like to get better. And I
Same.
feel like maybe if I'm put in the situation where I am like traveling on my own, I could maybe make a friend. That would
Mhm.
be like my goal. Maybe not a friend, but like talk to someone. Because if I go to conferences or like events like that, I usually like get to know the people I'm sitting with because I've done that a
Mhm.
lot. Um, but like out traveling, I don't know. I feel like I would really have to work at it, but I think it would be fun. I think that's a good challenge for everyone to try and make a new friend.
Yes. Yeah, fun story, guys. When we were on our 6-week long trip, um, no one would talk to us.
What? We made friends from Sweden.
We did. They were really fun, but other than that, no one would talk to
I think because we just walk around like we're like, please don't talk to us. Please don't. Please don't.
Please don't talk to us. See, probably why we made friends with the guys from Sweden was because of the fact that we were partying that night. So we were into socializing, where otherwise we were like, "Who are you?
Yes. And
Why are you
that is a
talking to
great
us?"
jumping off point.
Yes.
If you are traveling, I feel like this is anywhere, this is even at your hometown bar.
Yeah.
Don't get so drunk that you don't know what is going on around you. Like that is just like
Yeah.
prime pickings if someone wanted to target you. And that goes for like alcohol,
Mhm.
drugs, whatever. Do those things in a safe situation because that is just when someone would get you, like if you were walking home drunk and like got lost, or
Yeah.
you're in a bar
Or
and
you lost your key.
yeah, lose your key. Someone could easily grab all your stuff. In a bar, you could get into a more uh, difficult situation where someone is entering your space.
Mhm.
So definitely, have fun, but don't be stupid about it. Don't get so inebriated that you don't even remember where you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. And one thing I'm going to toss this in here too while we're talking about this is I find, if you are out and you are having some drinks and stuff, you kind of become, you can be a bit more social and, say some things that you otherwise wouldn't say.
Mhm.
If you are by yourself and somebody asks you if you're by yourself, especially if it's a man that you do not know, do not tell them that you're alone.
Right.
Just make something up. Say, like, I'm here with my 3 friends, or I'm here with my husband. And hopefully they will leave you alone at that point if you feel uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's important to try and talk to locals.
Mhm.
Obviously, language barrier can be a thing, but they obviously know the area best. And just talking to them and understanding more about the place where you are, you can just feel more comfortable with your surroundings in general.
Mhm. I agree with that. And also talk to other women
Yes.
when you're out, especially in your hostels or if you are out somewhere and you feel uncomfortable, just go up to a woman and start talking to her. And women are very inclined to help other women.
Yes, that is
So,
definitely so true.
mhm.
And if you are in a situation, like I know someone would be like, hey, this guy is like not leaving alone. Do you mind if I just stand with you? And I think like 9 out of 10 women would be like, oh my God, absolutely. How can I help you?
Yeah,
Right? Like whether they're a
exactly.
local or they're also a traveler, there's like that just, it's like woman code, right? Of like, I need some help. And I know I've had women do that to me. And like when I've met with
Mhm.
my friends, and I'm like, hands down, absolutely. Do we need to get you somewhere? Or like, do you just need a girl group to stand with? Yeah.
Exactly.
Help other women out too. If that situation arises, don't be afraid to just let her stand with you or help her just get into a cab.
Exactly. And another good thing, too, kind of going back to the research part, is looking up popular scams in the area that you might be going to just to be aware of what they're like. Because, oftentimes they seem very social in nature. And then at the end of it, it winds up with you having to like pay for something that you didn't expect. So just be knowledgeable, educate yourself beforehand, just so you're not surprised when if it happens.
Yeah, I feel like this is very popular when you're in shopping areas.
Yeah.
Because someone be like, "Oh, yeah, like, look at all this, look at all this, look at all this," and they're like, "Hey, let me take you into the back." That's where, like, the
Hmm.
really nice stuff is, just
Hmm.
be aware of those kinds of situations. One important thing that it goes for anywhere where you are is being polite is not more important than your safety. If you need to do something that you would consider rude or, literally tell them to fuck off, do it and
Hmm.
get yourself out of there. Don't be afraid to hurt someone's feelings because I feel
Hmm.
like as women, a lot of us are naturally like, "Oh, we need to keep the peace. We need to like be friendly and not
Hmm.
offensive." But if you're in a situation where your safety is at all at risk, you do not be polite. There is
Nope,
no obligation for you to.
none at all. And this, again, does not just go for traveling.
I feel
If
like
this
this is
happens
just
in your
a
day,
out and about episode now. We're just like, you might be
yeah.
in a different location, but if you're out at
Or
the
you might
mall,
be at
do
home.
this.
You might just be walking to work. But, it's important. I feel like traveling, it just teaches a lot of important lessons for life, you know?
Yeah, it really does. Like, I think we should all try and get out and have new experiences, no matter how far away they are from home and how different they are from your normal life. You can
Mhm.
learn such good skills from this. So, we hope this
Mhm.
episode like didn't scare you off. That was not our intention. It really was just to bring
No.
awareness. If you have been interested in wanting to travel, we love hearing that people want to get out and do things, but more importantly, we want them to do it in a safe way. And Organic
Mhm.
Olivia over on What's the Juice podcast, she actually just released a couple weeks ago, once this episode airs, um, a really good talking to people while you're traveling
Mhm.
solo. I think
Mhm.
she had some fantastic tips, especially when it comes to talking to men. Her
Mhm.
biggest recommendation is, if a man approaches you and strikes up a conversation, approach with caution, right?
Yeah.
Because they're probably seeing you, they're like, oh, she's physically attractive, I can see by she's by herself. Be wary of those situations. But
Mhm.
as a woman, I think you should make the first point of contact and be like, hey, like, okay, that like guy looks friendly, we're not looking
Mhm.
at romantic situations, we're looking at just friendship or just talking to
Mhm.
someone in general, you know,
Mhm.
go up, say, hey, how are you? Like, ask a question, that kind of stuff, and kind of feel out the vibe. Is this someone who is going to, you know, give off that aura of like, hey, this is a safe person I can kind of hang out with and
Mhm.
maybe make a new friend? Or is it like, never mind, they want more than what I'm looking
Yeah.
for, and I need to remove myself. And I think it's also just very important, going back to being polite, put it out there saying like, hey, I'm, in a relationship, if someone is like that, and just kind of
Mhm.
keep bringing it up, then they kind of know like, okay, no, she's not like interested in that. She's just interested in conversation. But if they keep
Mhm.
pressing that issue, then you know that like they have no respect for you and your situation.
Mhm.
So that's important to then shut it down. And if they won't drop it, like that is when you need to say, no, like I'm not interested in this. You need to leave, or I
Mhm.
need to leave. So just little
For
tips there.
sure.
Definitely go check out that episode with her.
Definitely. Just add a little caveat here too, though. If you are interested in a little international flirtation, go for it. Just be cautious.
Be very cautious. All right.
Just be very cautious. Maybe just like if you meet somebody in your hostel or something like that. Just be
Yes.
cautious.
Yes.
Just be
Use
cautious, guys.
protection.
International flirtations are fun, but
Oh, yeah,
be
like flirting
cautious.
is fun. Like that is all fine and dandy, but just be aware. Be aware.
Mhm.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yep. Stay alert.
Stay safe.
Oh, we're so funny.
Losers.
I know. Oh wow. I mean, we just did a whole like hour-long episode where we're like, okay, children, safety
Safety.
first. Like if we have any listeners who are like 18, 19 years old, if I recall what I was like when I was going traveling at that time, I'm probably like, shut up.
All right. Should we wrap up?
Yeah. So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. We would very much appreciate it. And if you would like to speak with us directly or maybe share some other tips with us, then you can email us. Our email is teawithlaurarachele@gmail.com.
And with that, live like tea.
Live like tea.